It was just, all they did was copy the application more and say, this is your first priority, is the land.
Yeah,
Went up
okay.
here already.
Well, I just didn't want to, because I know part of,
You want to sit up here, Jennifer?
part of my contract is to help me with the zoning.
Yeah, so just gotta sit here, don't want to chair there, chair there.
No,
So you're
no.
not-
He hasn't really made one, it was just a copy, that's all it was. And we didn't actually do the work for it or research on it. It was just getting our map that we had, to just get a copy of it.
Sure.
Oh,
It's gonna get better, right? Do you have that memory stick and I'll get it pulled up?
It shouldn't take that long.
This is Sherry Pollock.
She's our city secretary.
really?
Yeah, I apologize, this is something I couldn't have.
I can't remember the one.
You mean-
in-
The house that sits back in there on,
Those two houses are around.
Okay, thank you.
you got it, okay, I get that.
Would you like an agenda?
I know,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
You're gonna have to move.
It says here. Is what they're trying to do, there's a house back
No.
there.
This is, right here, this is over here.
Yeah.
You had a house here, and you had a big long lot over back to this. You had like a house, that little one set back over there. The house used to be.
Would you rather use the
Yeah.
mouse or you want to use the keypad?
Kimball.
Because I can add the wireless mouse I can bring in.
Just started.
Okay, thank you.
This is 16
Not
foot
much on there, right?
and this one,
Sorry?
Not much
crappy
in there.
room. We went in there one morning, they had the TV blaring, music
I'll
blaring, and
just send it.
the waitress couldn't speak English.
All right. It used to be torn off.
Really?
It used to be.
It's not on.
No, usually they do commercial,
We might have been there 15 years.
they could do that.
You know, actually.
Does that make sense?
But I understand he wants to build offices
It's,
there.
it
Well,
hadn't been anything since
it wasn't really clear.
there was a junk store in there at one time.
Buildings.
We have this right
Yeah,
here.
that could be
Where, what's his name's
cabins
place?
or
I
anything.
bought this and I bought.
Portable buildings,
I bought all of this.
things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay, let me know when y'all are ready and we'll turn this on.
$50,000.
We need that on for the,
We need it for the
And
workshop.
so
we did?
Yes.
So this off right
You
here,
want
the
me
whole
to,
thing.
they have a board.
Here's that.
When we get there, I'll let you know we can take a picture.
Y'all doing all right?
Aren't you used to light in your eyes?
Let me get my shades on.
It's just a copy of the workshop
Oh.
agenda. I don't know if y'all want to use that or. I'm Cindy, by the way. I'm Jennifer. You work with Chris? Okay.
So you're from Austin also?
Mhm.
You always talk this much?
I usually talk a lot more.
I have a daughter that lives on Grover.
Oh,
That's real quick.
yeah.
Just trying to take
Yeah,
care of it.
that's in the
Thank you very
Crestview
much.
neighborhood.
I don't know, 5,300. The corner of Grover and something else.
It should be. Oh, right here.
Just stop at Candy.
Yeah, you got me one.
I always call her when I get close to Austin. She has to tell
No,
me
that's
every
okay.
time. I cannot figure out Austin. I can go through it. Used to be able to get out to the Heritage Center, because we go to a lot of horse shows and stuff. But I went down Martin Luther King, which
Everything but Austin is just going 2 ways to Burford.
35 north and 35 south.
Well, in Mopac.
No, I can't get on. You get me on those.
It's hard getting in between.
Yeah.
Then you got the Texas highway of
Okay, we're recording.
okay. Call this meeting to order, Planning and Zoning Committee Workshop, Wednesday, April the 10th, 2013. We have a quorum, and we will start off with the U.S. Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas pledge?
Go ahead, raise
Honor
your
the
flag.
Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thanks, Andy.
Glad you were here.
Do we have any citizen comments on the workshop part? Okay, over to you, Chris.
All right.
You have the ball.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been excited about getting started with you guys for a couple months, so I'm real happy to be here. My name is Chris Stewart. I'm president of Stewart Planning Consulting. I have with me tonight Jennifer Bennett Riemann. Jennifer is a planner, been working with me now for 6 months, and she hadn't called it quits yet, so that's a good thing. But anyway, we're looking forward to walking you guys through a land use plan, helping you with some, getting your zoning map up to where it needs to be, and some, maybe some recommendations on some revisions to your zoning ordinance, and then also helping you guys with an annexation plan. So that's our charge. But to start all that, I wanted to talk to you guys today about developing a future land use plan. What I'm going to be talking about is, first of all, why do we plan? It's kind of the existential question, but it's a good, I think that's probably part of the reason we're here talking today. I want to go just review some of the population and economic data that came out of the master plan that was done last summer. I want to talk about some of the obvious land use trends, some of the obvious land use conflicts, and then I'll start thinking about a vision for the future. And I'm going to jump up, Jennifer's going to jump up to the market board, and we're going to have some discussion there. And then finally, before we go, we're going to see if we can talk about a schedule that works for you guys for knocking out the remaining meetings. We're going to be developing a future land use plan here over the course of 5 meetings. Why do we plan? Well, ideally, as municipal government, we have one set of rules that we apply equally and fairly to all of our citizens. In order to demonstrate that, and in order to keep ourselves out of legal trouble, with challenges to that effect, we do some planning. We show that we have some forethought into what we're doing. We have logic and reasoning behind what we're doing. We do have to apply all of our regulations equally and fairly. Another reason that we plan is obvious cause and effect. If one action by one individual is done in that individual's interest without regard for the public interest, sometimes there are effects that aren't what we need in order to be a cohesive, well thought out community. The decisions that we make as a planning and zoning commission, as a city staff, as a city council, all those as utility providers, school districts, all of those entities are making interrelated decisions. You can see a picture there. The picture on the left shows where the power company they didn't really coordinate. They didn't really execute their plan or really execute their plan very well. The other thing is we've all been burned in the past, and I think that's the story. That's really a common story that a lot of small communities share. I don't know one single community I've ever stepped foot in, at least in the state of Texas, that hadn't been burned, and so we don't need to get burned. I guess more abstractly, why we plan, we want to develop a community vision. We want to achieve some goals. We got things that we want to do. We want to protect our public life, our public goods, and preserve the quality of life. We also want to protect private property rights and encourage and continue economic development efforts. We want to be able to harness the economic forces that are out there, the external forces working on our community. And then we also could use something to help us in making our decisions about land use, about zoning, make those decisions more effective and give us a basis for making those decisions so that we're not arbitrary. Ultimately, though, and this is the Chris Stewart theory a little bit about why we plan. We're providing predictability to the citizens, predictability for the development community, predictability for the council in its planning sessions, in its budget sessions, predictability for the utility providers. We're giving everybody an idea of where we're headed and where we want to go. And ultimately, I think that creates long-term value in the community. And that's my goal, you guys, is to set you up to harness that long-term value. So a future land use plan is really kind of the building block for doing that here, especially for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And this is your opportunity to guide the physical development and growth of the community. We can establish how and where, within certain limits, we want to build, rebuild, or things that we want to preserve for future generations. And typically, a future land use plan is part of a larger comprehensive plan or a master plan. A lot of times it's so important that it gets pulled out of that cycle and worked on a little bit more intensively and a little bit more frequently. The master plan that was done last summer takes a start at the future land use planning process, but I think there's more things there that we need to cover, particularly this body that's giving recommendations on land use issues. The other thing is it's necessary to give you that legal basis, that logical basis, so that if the city ever gets dragged into court about having made a decision to not grant a zoning, or to grant a zoning that some may not like, or to require a developer to do certain things with his development. If you have those kind of things clearly defined and shown in your plan, then the courts will generally give deference to the community and say, no, the community did not act arbitrarily or capriciously. Those are the two words that a city never wants to hear. We've acted in that way, and I don't think cities ever intend to do that. But it happens sometimes, and with the plan, we can kind of protect ourselves from that. So the land use planning process really starts with, let's say, the comp plan, the master plan. That's the basis. To that, we add our ordinances and some of our policies and our other plan elements. So our zoning ordinance being a big component, our subdivision ordinance being a component, site development regulations. I put landscaping on there. That's often one. That or sign regulations or things that the communities typically do to really build their house. And that's why I've kind of used this little graphic model here. It's kind of like building a house. And at the end of the day, you got to put a roof on it and cover it, and you've got to codify it, you've got to administer it, and you've got to be willing to enforce it. So that's kind of how you build the community, just like you build a house. Start with that comp plan foundation, you add to it with your ordinances and the regulations, and you decide that you're going to protect it and codify it. We'll talk just a little bit about some of the population trends that were identified in the master plan last summer. Just quickly, I'm not trying to redo this work, only to tell you that we did look at it, and I found the work to be very reasonable and prudent, and I think it's a good set of numbers to start with. So we don't need to necessarily rework that wheel, rebuild that wheel, and try and reinvent it. The historical population trend has been very, very slow growth, decade over decade since the 60s. And we all know that that has changed. We all know, I think you've probably seen a map that looks something like this. Eagle Ford, and incredible economic investment, incredible opportunity, but tremendous, incredible risk at the same time. So this again from the master plan, just showing what the population increase was expected to be based on a survey that was done. Again, I think that's all fairly sound, fairly good for assumption purpose. The plan projects that Floresville's going to add about 1,300 residents a year for the next 9 to 10 years.
Do you think that's a little conservative?
You know, I thought it might be too, which is why we looked at it, but I've also had an opportunity to look at some other communities' projections that were done in pretty good detail with their school district demographer, and that school district demographer also thought, you know, there's going to be growth, but it's not going to necessarily be the explosive population growth that everybody's expecting. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt,
No
but is that one of the things that we have to keep in mind is our Floresville city limits, what falls within the city. So we do see a lot of growth, but that tends to be just outside the city limits.
Yeah.
And we do have minimal land available within the city limits to house these people. So I think that's something that we've got to clarify. Because we looked at this also and said, well, it's kind of, the numbers are kind of low, but after you take into account what really is Floresville proper and what's outside.
That's probably the major contributor. The other thing too being that the impact of the Eagle Ford we see in traffic and we see in economic terms more so than I think we see in pure population terms. And that's something that I've seen over in Pleasanton and Jordanton as well. So this then, the projection of upwards of 8,500 people by 2022. This warrants looking at every year. I mean, this is something that we need to come back to every year and say, look back at our building permits, look back at our annexations, look at other indicators like electric bills, and see if we're on school enrollments, those kind of things, and see, are we still on track? Is that what we were thinking? Because ultimately, we're going to have to, it's great to have a plan, but you also have to check your assumptions, go back and check your assumptions from time to time. There's no shame in saying, you know, we thought this was what was going to happen in 2010, or Lord knows what we thought was going to happen in 2007 or 2008 when the national economy was bottoming out. Obviously, a different story. Another indicator here is your sales tax revenue. The general trend here, obviously, is a significant increase over time. And it's, with, I think, the exception of maybe March of 2011, it looks like it dipped a little bit, March or April of 2011. But since then, consistently higher and higher. You can see the spikes tend to correspond to Christmas season there, when those sales tax revenues are allocated in February of the following years. But generally, the trend is up, and that's a good thing. Land use trends generally see the commercial growth along 181 and then along 97. That's normal and to be expected. As that little graphic for Walmart indicates, there's 15,000 vehicles per day on 181 at that location. That's about a threshold that Walmart is going to look for if they're deciding to locate. And obviously, we expect that to continue to grow. The downtown has, we don't necessarily see the same growth trends, but you probably see a lot of inquiries on renovation, changes in use, and some lighter inquiry. The population change over the last decade, and again, this doesn't necessarily reflect what's happened since Eagle Ford has come along. There's still, that data is still kind of evolving, but generally, it's a fairly balanced, pattern, fairly balanced transition. The only thing is maybe a little bit on the north side of town, population density changing a little bit, or reducing a little bit. But I don't see that that's a clear picture in any one way. So I don't know that we can draw any conclusions from that, from this trend map necessarily. Land use conflicts, that may be more of what we're seeing on a day-to-day basis. We have a series. We have to be weighing temporary uses versus permanent uses, and the opportunities and risks that each of those present, particularly with the temporary uses. The picture on the upper right is a set of pads that have been cleared and made ready for RVs to be able to come in and provide temporary housing, and that's not necessarily directly in Pleasanton, but representative of kind of all Eagle Ford region. I'm sorry, in Floresville, but
Yeah, we have those as well.
you'll have those as well, and I think it's key to remember that they are temporary uses, and how we regulate those really should be as temporary uses. The hotels, the development of hotels, you'll see have you had a lot of inquiries already on new hotel construction?
We've had a lot built, and they're completing a Holiday Inn Express.
Yes.
And yes, we've had additional inquiries.
Yeah.
Super 8 opened last week, and the Kingston opened
In
August, September.
So that's
So, yeah.
250 rooms right there.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing is that they're already a year to 18 months out booked.
And you're correct.
Not La Quinta, they're not booking solid.
They're not booking some.
No, they're keeping some of those.
They're keeping some rooms
Oh.
open.
For your overnight.
Another potential conflict is redevelopment in your historical downtown. The Turner Building there is an example, I think, of a redevelopment that actually may have been done well and just fine, and as opposed to the example on the left. Turn off the lights real quick so you can see that a little better. Where they came in and took the historic building out, just raised it, and they put in a gas station. That's not necessarily, I don't know if that's necessarily the redevelopment opportunities that we're looking for, and that's a potential conflict.
Well, I don't know if that would happen, because that's actually historical,
The Turner Building?
all that area there.
Okay.
Yes.
And I don't know if, sometimes there's areas that are kind of on the edge of your historical district,
Yes.
that still may have historical value, but were not included. I've just seen that happen before, I don't know if that's the case for you. And then that's the example here, the one on the left is from Georgetown. Fantastic courthouse square, and this is 2 blocks off the square. Let's raise it, put them anywhere. And then you always have conflicts between, potentially, unless you're planning for them, you always have the potential for conflict between residential and non-residential uses. Residential on the right, whether it's your older neighborhoods or your newer neighborhoods, but the need for new commercial services like a lube shop or a tire shop. And I'm not singling out those uses, but just saying in general, those non-residential types of uses. Or even storage units going in when you have a temporary population. You have a lot of need for temporary belongings, personal belongings, but also equipment storage for some of these operations. The need for storage all of a sudden pops up, whether it's open yard storage or enclosed units like that. And that's a potential conflict. So we're just, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't already know or already see, but just trying to frame how we think about these conflicts so we can address them as we go along. Temporary versus permanent, how do we handle redevelopment in historical downtown, and how do we balance residential and non-residential? So a vision for the future. One of my favorite lines, I should have included it on the slide here, but was former mayor of Dallas, Ron Kirk. He was pretty flashy guy. He had some good one-liners, and his best one I think was a plan without a vision is a hallucination. I like that. Because it really tells us what a vision is there for. It's something to come back to. It's something that when we're frustrated with how things are going, when we're trying to remember why we're doing a certain project, or why we're looking at this area or that area, or why we made this decision, we come back to our vision. And what I think some of the considerations are in developing a vision, because I've been involved in visioning processes before where it's taken us 3 months to come up with a vision, of regular meetings, of a committee going back and forth. And I think that's kind of missing the point when we do that. I think if we can stay focused and efficient and just consider some of these questions, I think your vision will come to us. Start off, what is special about Floresville? What is unique? What is it that we want to preserve? What are the kinds of things that we want to see more of? What do we not want to see more of? What are some of the opportunities that exist in the community that we can leverage? And really, where do you see yourself in Floresville? Where do you see Floresville in the next 10 years? And where do you see Floresville maybe even in the next 20 years? So you can look, we want to look long term, because that vision is going to guide us in developing the future land use. But just with those questions, does anybody have any input on what it is? That's what I like to start off with, is what is it about Floresville that's special? What is it that's unique?
I think one of the biggest things, and I'm jumping in, I should have asked before, but you know, our location, we're strategically placed just north of the oil and gas boom, so we really don't get the unwanted traffic as much as the areas, but we still benefit from the residual revenues. And then we're south of San Antonio, so a lot of people are trying to escape San Antonio for a community like ours.
Location is strategic.
Yes.
Floresville is the gateway to the Eagle Ford. It's going in the new visitor guide. That's going to be my heading. It is the gateway to the Eagle Ford. And your point about people escaping San Antonio, if one looks at New Braunfels over the last 20 years, 15 years, 16 years that I've been here, it grew up by people wanting not to live in San Antonio, but to work in San Antonio. They want to be close enough. And that's what I think one of Floresville's biggest attractions. You can be in downtown San Antonio in about 25 minutes. Well, I drive faster.
Yeah.
That is an extremely attractive, where you can live in the country and work in the city. That's still got to be most people's dream.
Yes. What did, and I'm just going to put the Eagle Ford aside for a second. what was it about that your forefathers maybe saw in Floresville? What did they see that?
Peanuts. That's what I was gonna say.
Sand.
Agriculture,
A lot of sand.
sandy agriculture.
Floresville is steeped in history, and we need to make sure as part of this growth
There's a
plan
lot of historical.
that we keep, it's got a beautiful feel to Floresville. You can go to Walmart and buy whatever you want. Then you come downtown and you can see the courthouse and some of the old shops, and all that is within 3 miles.
So our citizens, people you meet.
Some of the other stuff that we are fortunate to have is, I know that San Antonio was trying to gain the designation of a World Heritage because of the missions. We've got a mission de Las Cabras, Rancho Las Cabras, just in Wilson County, just south of town here. So every time that they mention that, they mention Floresville because of that. So, you know, only major things like the Grand Canyon and stuff get that designation. So if that goes through, that's gonna be, we're gonna get a lot of tourists in the area too. So that's something that we can be proud of.
You better put water right beside that.
Right.
Yeah.
Trinity, or Queen City, or?
Queen City, Carrizo, Wilcox.
All right, so there's a mix of,
There's something missing up there. Teddy was talking about, that's the people of Floresville. The cultural mix from Hispanic, stiff-ass Brits like me.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say.
The culture mix is great, and
redcoats,
ooh, that might be a little.
What if I
Good.
were the original settlers, were they Alsatian?
No, no,
That's
They're
Castroville.
Well, Castroville had
Alsatian.
Alsatian.
they're from the Canary Islands.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's right.
Yes, they came from the Canary Islands to settle by the river. So,
And that's unique. I mean,
very,
Yep.
very unique. And,
Love Polish.
I've never seen it on.
Muchigambas, Moys,
Santa Maria was the
well, I mean,
oldest settlement.
there's a bunch here too.
establishment.
We can't leave them out.
The diverse history of,
Very
They all work
diverse.
at CPS, the police department.
Yeah.
when you look at the diverse history of all the people here, and because I'm English, they always talk to me about where they came from originally, and it's just fascinating to listen to, your ancestors came from England.
Yeah.
Got thrown out, I think, but.
Yeah, that
My ancestors-
hometown, small city atmosphere's been here forever.
Right,
Yes.
we need to retain that,
Hometown, small
blend it
town.
in with the growth of a thriving city as well. That's probably gonna be the hardest task.
How does the community currently get together and celebrate its cultural mix?
Peanut Festival.
Peanut Festival,
Peanut on October.
Church fest.
Church Festival, Christmas parades.
Barbecue pits.
There is always something going on here.
But the big one is the
Every
peanut.
The peanut
That's-
festival.
So the peanut's the big one, that brings the biggest
Variety.
influx from
Yeah, from all over.
all over.
what are some of the, what's considered maybe the major gathering place?
Montes.
Market Square. You say Ropers again?
Montes.
Oh,
The downtown area is.
Downtown. Courthouse Square is.
Courthouse Square?
Yes, the big
That's where all
peanuts
the
there.
parades are.
I did a little workshop a year or so ago at your Civic Center, and totally fantastic place. I was really excited to see your incredible live oak trees there on
Oh,
the
yeah.
patio.
Beautiful there.
I have some great pictures I took of that, but, so that's one, but the courthouse square is kind of the main, that seems to be the
Downtown
rallying point for
courthouse.
the part of
Floresville.
The heart, yeah.
Del Hart. Okay.
It's got a peanut on it.
Mhm.
What other landmarks might be out there?
The mission that he spoke
The mission.
of.
What's the name of the mission again?
So Rancho de las Cabras,
Rancho.
Las Cabras?
de las Cabras.
De las Cabras.
Day,
That's Spanish.
la, some.
Goat Ranch.
Oh, yeah.
Goat Ranch.
Gotcha.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Okay.
What is the Texas Trail as well, right?
Yes, it's another one, the Lodi Ferry area.
Has it been recognized by the national parks?
Not yet.
Not yet, but it's in there to be.
Yeah, it's all,
yeah.
that's in the works.
Are you afraid of any one place being lost? Either into obsolescence or redevelopment, development pressure, or negligence, or afraid of something?
I think there's several areas in ETJ that need controlling.
Mhm. And the reason I asked, let me just give you an example from Liberty Hill. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Liberty Hill up northwest of Austin. Little town, population 1,800, on the verge of exploding. Leander coming up this way, Georgetown coming out from that way. One of the things that everybody remembered was a commission just like you guys, same age, demographic, everything. One of the things they all remembered was that there was a place called Martha Chapman Dam on the South Fork of the San Gabriel River. And it wasn't anything other than an old concrete dam that was put there in the middle of the river that you could get to off the county road. And that was the place that they had a big rope swing, and everybody would go there in, after school, and starting in May and June, when it started to get hot, and maybe bring a few beverages and glass bottles that shouldn't have been there, but that was a rally point. I mean, that was a major community feature, and so their concern was that if Leander got out there and Martha Chapman Dam, they weren't going to understand the history the way that people from Liberty Hill did. And so we made sure that in their future land use plan, we included Martha Chapman Dam in our planning area. We included it in our future park acquisition plan. And so that was a way for them to kind of start capturing, okay, we're taking claim here to Martha Chapman. So that's why I'm asking if there are other types of community gathering points that we want to make sure that we're aware of.
There was one, but it's now a church.
Oh, I know.
Something already happened.
Yes.
We lost Juniors, which was probably the nicest bar in
Sacrilege.
That was
town.
nice.
And they turned into a church.
But it's not in our-
Upside down.
No, imagine if it had been the other way around, if we wanted to open a bar in a church, wouldn't the uproar? I think we would have been.
TABC issues.
I think everything, pretty much has been tended to. The one concern that we had was our courthouse, as you can tell. It's fenced off, it had some structural damage, and we're waiting to see, but the county has moved forward, and they've got plans on keeping that. So we're happy that that's happened, and once that gets done, then we'll have full use of it. You get more traffic in the downtown area.
And that is the only, the only courthouse designed by that architect, whose name eludes me at the moment, but it's still in use in the state of Texas.
For its
So it's-
intended
For
purpose.
its intended purpose, yeah. That's a little unique
It is.
insight into the
And I'm
courthouse.
afraid that if it goes downtown, it's just gonna be really sad.
Yeah, the courthouse is the heartbeat of the city downtown area, and if the courthouse was to go,
Yeah.
you could forget downtown.
Yeah.
But they're moving forward, they've already got their plans, and I've been working with Cindy on,
What was the name of the architect?
When are they gonna get started?
Alfred
they're
something?
gonna start on the
Mr.
annex
Pettis is
first.
not here.
and
Oh,
They
that's
purchased
awesome.
that number.
Right.
Okay.
And I guess if you're talking about the courthouse, forgive me for butting in all the time, but if you're talking about the courthouse, you're looking at all our downtown areas, trying to keep the historical face on all our old buildings, you know, as they're being rebuilt, if they don't come to the ground, and that you have part of history still there.
Yes. You know,
I mean,
my,
they're getting rebuilt, they're slowly being rebuilt, but
and people still like to see that if they have that old town feeling when they, I mean, we need more stuff downtown, but they like walking there and they like the feeling. It's like going back in time. It's really neat.
We need to make sure that we encourage new businesses to come into
The
this
downtown.
part of the downtown area without building a flashy.
all glass front building, you know,
Yeah,
that.
no, it's got to blend in.
Mhm. So, you have an historic district, is that correct?
Yes.
So you have the National Register designation, and you have an Historic Preservation Commission that's up and running and administering that district, or
That is for-
The Historical Society.
the Historical Society is doing that?
Yes.
And do they have any, or have they come to you to ask for any kind of assistance in enforcing regulations about developments or redevelopment?
It hasn't been in years that's been in
Yes.
place.
Yeah.
We just have it in ordinance form, and it's designated in the ordinance what streets.
What street? So you have the district defined, but
Yes.
are there any limitations on how development can occur inside that district?
It talks about like the facade, and I don't know about developments, could be in there, but,
No,
I think it just talks about the look, the facade and
yeah,
stuff.
it preserves what's there,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody wants to make a facade change, then they have to present a proposal,
Yes.
it has to be approved. kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that's good, that's definitely a start for that. And I'm probably going off a little bit on a tangent here, but in terms of infrastructure, the downtown, water, sewer, usually those have been made available within the last 50 years.
Mhm.
In most areas, you might have a few areas that, you know, you really need a 6-inch water line because you still got 2-inch asbestos cement or something in the ground. And those are normal kind of things I would expect. How about drainage in the downtown? That's typically another issue that
Pretty much, yes.
pretty much is a
Yes.
problem, or pretty much,
C Street,
Ideal stores.
yes.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It's a problem, yes, it is.
so something that kind of needs to be
Yes,
addressed. Okay.
yes.
You know, you-
Always room for improvement,
Yeah.
always.
It's always hard to prioritize what needs to be done first.
I'm gonna come back over our list here, and with this red pen, I'm gonna highlight a couple of keywords here. Strategic, geographic, escape, natural resources, beautiful feel, cultural mix, small town atmosphere, courthouse square being the heart, the mission is another spot. I think those are some ideas that we could then take and work into a vision statement. So we have a couple options for doing the vision statement, and really, it's kind of up to you guys how you want to do it. If you want a homework assignment, you want something to keep you up until 2 in the morning every night until the next time we meet, take a crack at a vision statement. I'd love to hear it.
Okay.
And then we can come back and compare. The other option, if you guys are shy, I know like Teddy is really shy, she may not want to do it that way. You may say, no, Chris, you take a crack at something and we'll edit it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that too. I'm impartial, but I won't be able to write with the same passion and understanding, depth of appreciation that you guys have because it's your community. So however you want to do that, fine with me, but what I would suggest is when we get back together next time, we go over some draft vision statements.
Do you have some examples of
I-
visions
yeah,
that you
yeah.
think are good?
I do have some sample vision statements, and I can send those out by email.
Great.
Yeah.
I was gonna Google them anyway.
And the funny thing is, they all sound really the same, and that's why I make such a fuss about, let's talk about what's special.
That's really interesting.
Let's talk about what's special, because this is special to me. This is special.
Yeah, it's different.
Where else in the world are you gonna go and find
You had a group of
a mission
people,
and a group of people that was
supposedly the
dominated
king
by
of
Canary
Spain
Islanders?
told these people from the Canary Islands, I want you to go somewhere in
Yeah.
South Texas, find a place to settle, and they came here.
Yeah.
Why?
Suppose there's a lost tunnel from the mission to the river that they could, where they could escape.
Oh, there you go. My gosh.
The lost
Yeah.
tunnel. I love it.
Actually.
Well, that comes under escape.
Really?
And you forgot the White House
See-
Cafe.
Yes.
Had some unique rooms upstairs.
Oh,
Special use,
yeah.
And the jailhouse.
yeah, special use permit.
Yeah, the old jailhouse.
And they said they
It's
used that
true.
tree next to the old jailhouse too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like most cities do, it's like when I lived in San Antonio, I never went down for a river walk. And really, you should go down there once a month, because it's beautiful, it changes all the time. And I think sometimes when we work and live and work in Floresville, we forget to stop to smell the roses along the way and look and say, well, this is a really nice place.
Sometimes it takes,
There used to be a platform in the old jail where they hung people. There was a.
That's what- yeah.
The tree.
Right.
The
No,
tree.
those are-
Oh, no,
Inside.
inside.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's another.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's in there.
We're gonna put that back in use.
Oh.
Okay.
If we could just say something about our platform is,
This is the dead center.
Probably won't make too many analogies to the gallows.
okay. I think we're gonna.
Floresville is also unique in that it has a lot of park acreage that's still there being developed slowly, and it's always been looked after.
Even some of it isn't in the city.
Not yet, but most of it is. We have a lot of park areas.
Yeah, we do. That's for potential, big potential.
We've got the new one.
Another thing I didn't put a slide in here for, and I probably should have. Just think about who else needs to be a part of this, of your discussion. Are there other groups, other entities that you want to reach out to and let them know that we're doing this? Ask for their input. Typically, and they don't always come, but they appreciate the invitation, and sometimes they have good resources to offer. So, like school district, river authority, are y'all,
Economic development.
okay, the EDC, who's your electric provider?
So,
Floresville.
Floresville. Okay. So your electric provider, it's good to reach out to TechStop and let them know that you're doing this, because part of this exercise is going to be looking at future, where future transportation corridors are going to be, and you can either help them out if they've already got a route studied that they know that they want to do for a bypass or an expansion or whatnot. Recognizing that on your plan is important. but they're another partner. So that's something I wanted to mention too, but see, are there others that we want to make sure that they get a copy at least of the meeting agenda and an opportunity to come and sit with us the next several times.
That's a good idea.
Okay. So you guys have your homework assignment, and you're probably already starting to write it. Right now, you're gonna go home tonight, put on a pot of coffee. So setting a schedule. We've got 5 workshops total. What I want to do in the next workshop is do a little bit more, is there any more carryover, anything more that we want to cover on the base stuff? Anything that just kind of hits you in the middle of the night, you know, you should really talk about this project, or when that happened, when this happened, get that on the table. We'll do our vision exercise, and then we're going to sit down with a big map, kind of like this map, but I think we'll probably have some more recent aerial photography and some boundaries, your city limits, your current ETJ. We're going to start with that. We're going to talk about the planning area, what it should be. Your planning area is what you think it needs to be. There's not anything in the state law that says a city cannot plan past its city limits or cannot plan past its ETJ. It's what you think it needs to be based on your control. And obviously, if you're going over into Lavera's ETJ or somebody else's ETJ, then we need to bring them to the table and let them know that we're talking about this. We'll talk about that more next time. But we want to talk about the planning area because that can be really important, especially if there's something strategic that we're trying to get to, and we need to extend it a little bit and push it. And we'll do some broad brush mapping. We'll look at kind of where the existing development patterns are, the